G'day guys, Paul here from Getgowin. Welcome back to the channel. This week I wanted to walk you guys through my sleep system. I've got a sleep system here that's been developed over the last 3 or 4 years. It allows me to camp out and be comfortable and get a good night's sleep in temperatures from -5 degrees Celsius down to, or up to I should say, 28 degrees Celsius in the Sub Tropics here in Queensland, Australia. The other thing with 28 degrees, of course, is we're then getting humidity. It can be up to 80% humidity overnight, so you're basically sleeping in a sauna overnight in a tent or under a tarp. So it's quite testing conditions, I would say, in the summertime. And you have to then adjust your sleeping system to allow for that type of atmosphere and that type of heat as well. So stay around to the end of this video. I'll take you through the different sleeping bags, sleeping mats I've got, and the different pillows I use, but I've also a couple of tricks and hacks, if you like, that I use also that allow me to get a better night's sleep, both from a pillow point of view, particularly if you're a side sleeper, and also in the summertime, sleeping in the head of summer when it's, as I said, 25, 28 degrees Celsius overnight. I've got a system and a little trick that I use that allows me to get a much more comfortable sleep overnight in those sort of temperatures. So stick around to the end and I'll show you those towards the end of the video. Place to start right now, of course, is from the ground up. I'll take you through the different mats I've got. So the two mats that I've purchased are both Cedar Summit units. This is the Cedar Summit Ultralight, both in large, because I'm 6'3". This one is the Etherlight. How come I'm picking Ultralight and Etherlight? I don't know, but obviously the marketing gurus came up with that idea. I bought this one originally. It's a lot smaller. It's around the same weight. It's only about 30 grams lighter. This one's about 595, 625 grams. Not much difference weight-wise. And they're both about the 3.1, 3.2 R rating. So they're both pretty much as warm as each other from an R rating perspective. But this one I do find a lot warmer. So how do I choose which mat I'm going to take when I'm going camping? So as I said before, it really depends on distance, it depends on the height, and whether I'm going on foot or in a canoe or car camping and that type of thing as well. So if I'm hiking, I've got to do more than say 10 or 15 Ks in a day, and there's some altitude gains and up and down valleys and mountainsides and ridge lines, then I'll always take the smaller one. It just packs up a lot smaller and lighter. It's not a big difference, but when it packs down, it does certainly make a difference in your pack. However, if I'm in my canoe or I'm going on a shorter trip, and then it's also in the winter time, then I'll definitely take the bigger one because it's more comfortable, gives you a bigger footprint. But I also find this one a lot warmer as well. Even though they've got the same rating, I do find this one to be a warmer sleeping bag, and I think that's because of the height. So what I'll do now is I'll set them both up and show you the difference. We'll start with the Etherlight. So as you can see with the Etherlight here, it's a lovely, comfortable mat. This thing sits at about 10 centimeters high. Gets you up well up materially off the ground. Great for side sleepers with your hips going in and that type of thing as well. And it comes with these little 4 Velcro tabs that can hold the pillow in place, which is quite a nice system. Now I did have an issue with these at the start. They did just peel off. I went to a hardware store and got some plastic glue and glued them back on, and they haven't shifted since. So that's been really great. So this is a really super comfortable, luxurious mat. It is my favorite by a country mile, and wherever possible, I will actually take this mat out because, as I said, it's hyper comfortable, really, really warm in the winter. I've never had an issue, even down to -5, etc., where like the actual floor or the ground, the heat cold from that has come up through the actual mat itself. I've never had a cold back or cold hips or cold side lying on this particular mat. It's always been more than enough insulation for me. Now don't get me wrong, it's not going to work at the snow. It's -20, -30, -40. No, absolutely, it is only a 3-season mat. But for what I do in Queensland, for what I'm doing in the middle of winter and so forth, this is a fantastic mat. It works really, really well. So let's check out this little guy here, the little Ultralight. As you can see, it's a lot smaller. It's only about half the thickness and a smaller footprint wise as well. So as you can see with this guy, it's only slightly smaller width wise. It's about the same length, but it's only about half as thick. It's quite a thin sleeping mat. I can sleep on my side on this guy. I'll touch the ground every now and then, but if you get it up nice and drum tight, it's okay. But as you can see, it's much smaller from a height wise, and temperature wise, yeah, it works, it's fine. But I typically will use this more in the summer than I will in the winter, simply because, as I said, that's a bit more comfortable and does tend to be warmer. There's only so much you can do with this sort of level of thickness of mat. The other bonus for me is it uses the same pump system or airbag inflation system as the Etherlight. This didn't come with an inflation bag. I'm not sure if they do now, but I bought this about 7 years ago, and it certainly didn't back then. So I use the inflation bag off this one, and I'll take it out with this mat as well, and that helps me obviously inflate it about half the time. So nice comfortable mat, does the job. Other key difference between these two mats, the orange one here is super noisy. If you're sleeping with other people, oh my goodness, This thing is so noisy, it's not funny. You can't so much as scratch yourself, let alone turn over. It's keeping everybody awake. The newer material you use on the new guys is a lot quieter. It's probably about half the volume or half the noise as this guy is, but this one is like scrunching up plastic bags all night around a tent site. So it is a noisy mat from that perspective, so keep that in mind if you are camping with others. Now, if you buy yourself like me, which is 99% of the time, doesn't really matter, no big deal, but it is noisy. Just be aware of that one. So they're both great mats, both comfortable. As I said, these are the long versions for me. Cost-wise, probably about $100 difference between the two of them, I would suggest. I haven't looked at that for a long, long time, but both great mats, both great options. Stick around to the end. I'll show you how I actually pack these in my pack in a different format than rather than going in the tubes themselves. It allows you to have just a bit more room in your pack, and you don't have the gaps you get when you have rolls and so forth in your pack as well. So I don't actually use the covers for these things when I'm packing them. I do it a different way, and I'll show you that towards the end of the video. Okay, sleeping bags. First of all, I've got this super light little Roman Palm 1. Don't really care about the brand, it was more about the size. This thing has a comfort rating of 10 degrees Celsius, and certainly down to that temperature, it's fine. No issue at all. If I get a little bit cold, I use a liner, or I just sleep in a few more clothes, etc. But otherwise, it's a really, really great size sleeping bag. Nice and small, nice and compact, nice and light. This guy comes in at about, what does it say here on the end? 800 grams, so really nice and light. Great little bag. It's synthetic, which is really good, easy to wash, goes in the washing machine. I wash it every 2 or 3 trips, hanging out and lying the air right out and dry right out, and it's fantastic. It's lasted me for years. I've had this probably 7 years now, and it's just been a bulletproof little sleeping bag, and it also unzips fully to become a quilt, which is excellent in the summertime. So I'll use this guy all summer, spring and most of autumn as well, because I can use it as a sleeping bag, but also as a nice thin quilt to just throw a leg out, throw over myself, or just to pull over myself in the middle of the night, say at around 3, 4 in the morning when it gets really, really cold. Even in the summertime, if it gets a bit chilly, you can just pull it back over and it's nice and comfortable. Really great little sleeping bag. So we'll put that guy up in a moment. The other sleeping bag I have is this Cedar Summit. You would have seen this guy. It's a Trek TK2. This guy is a comfort rating of -1 degree Celsius, but as I said, I've used down to about -5, -6, no issue at all. It's a mummy style down sleeping bag, but a lot bulkier. So I only use this maybe 2 or 3 months of the year, to be honest, because I am in the Sub Tropics, as I said. If I'm going down to the colder parts of Queensland, right down to the New South Wales border, where out in the granite belt it gets quite cold in winter, then I'll be using this guy. Super comfortable, super warm. Used it up on a ridge line in a recent camp where it got very, very chilly overnight. We had a southerly wind come through straight off the ice down in Victoria, and it got particularly cold that night. But the great thing about this, even at my length, it comes up over your head and you pull it down to a circle around your mouth, and it's really, really toasty. The other thing I do, of course, is I'll wear just very, very lightweight fleece pants in it. I've got a woolen t-shirt that I'll wear. And as I did that night, particularly cold, I just put a beanie on, keep the head warm. And you're nice and warm, really, really warm. Once again, you've got an open foot box you can open at the bottom. It does zip out, but it being a mummy shape, not quite as good as a quilt. But anyway, let's set this one up as well, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so this guy set up. As you can see, it's quite a big sleeping bag. Obviously, loft's a lot higher once you leave it out for half an hour or more, which I typically do. I'll put this up about half an hour before I go to bed, just to let it loft up a bit more. A few things I like about it. Obviously very comfortable. It's a relatively big foot box, so it's not one of these little tiny ones. It's actually about this wide, which is quite nice. Has the, as I said, the head cover, which comes up over your head, which is good. But the other thing it has is this little string system. So the actual buckle's tied onto the side of the sleeping bag. So at night time, you can just give one arm and just pull it up, cinch it up, and pull it right up over your head, nice and easy, just one hand. You don't have to try and fiddle around with it and everything else. You can just grab the string, pull it down, and it just pulls up over your head, which is really, really good. So as you can see, if I put that string back inside, you end up with a nice little hole there to breathe out of. You've got a nice, warm, comfortable head for the night. Really great idea, really great system. Always love it when people start to think beyond the norm about saying, oh, we could just do that, but then they actually think it through further and say, well, how can we do that one-handed? Because in the middle of the night, once again, you don't typically do this when you first hop in, but at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., you do not want to be fiddling around trying to hold things and pull things and so forth. You might be able to just grab a string and drag it. So very well thought out from Cedar Summit. Nice and easy, the zip never gets caught on it. It's got a buckle at the top here, of course, to buckle it up as well if you want to worry about that. And it does have an internal zip pocket here that you can use for your mobile phone, keys, whatever it might be that's important to you overnight. Not a bad idea in a cold night, by the way, to do that. It keeps first of all, the mobile phone on top of you, not to the side and underneath you, but it also helps the battery. So if you do have a mobile phone, or I'll occasionally do it with my GoPros as well, is I'll actually keep them in the sleeping bag with me, because the warmer the battery, the longer it'll last. If you get a cold night sub 0 degrees Celsius, it kills batteries. It'll kill your phone, it'll kill the mobile, it'll kill your camera batteries, and of course watch batteries. If you have any type of watch that gets down to 0, it's going to kill the battery as well. So that's quite a handy little feature in a sleeping bag, to have a little pocket you can throw things into. And as I said, I've used that on occasion when it has got down to a particularly cold night. So a great sleeping bag, really, really lovely and warm, but too hot for about 70% of the year here in Queensland. So the rest of the time, I use this little guy, so let's put him up and we'll have a look at him. Okay, so the little Roman also comes with a little pocket internally here. Once again, just to put your bits and bobs in, phones, cameras, batteries, all that type of stuff. But a very thin little sleeping bag, very thin and light, very, very compact, but just enough warmth for 10 degrees Celsius or above. This is warm and toasty. It's a little bit tight across my shoulders, I'll admit. As I said, being 6'3", I'm quite broad in the shoulders. It does get a bit tight in the shoulders, but most of the time I'll just pull my big wings out and just have them on the outside, and that keeps me comfortable. But it has got a little bit of a hood, but probably not quite long enough for that either, unfortunately. But as I said, not really an issue for me, because this is more of a late spring, summer, early autumn type sleeping bag, where it is warm enough and you don't really stress about those things. And if you've got an arm or a leg out, all good, no issue at all. But as I said, it also then zips right out square, and you've got a great big quilt that you can use on the floor of your sleeping bag, or even when you're under a tarp, etc. And that makes it very, very comfortable and very, very flexible, because it's not much of a weight. It's just sometimes nice to have just something light draping over you, particularly, as I said, in the cool hours, 3, 4, 5 a.m, that type of stuff, just to give you a bit of comfort to help you sleep. Sometimes I find if I've got a breeze going across my body and so forth, it makes it just a little bit uncomfortable. And just draping something, even if it's over your chest, under your arm, something like that, just enough to get you comfortable, off to sleep you go again. So yeah, it's been a great little sleeping bag. I love it. It's a cheap one, it's not expensive. Roman's not one of these ultra brands that uses exotic materials. It's just a cheap little one I got it from a hiking store, but it's done really, really well for me. So yeah, really love this sleeping bag. Next item, of course, is pillows. So let's discuss the pillows. We'll chuck these bags away, and we'll go through these two options, a Cedar Summit and a Trekology. And I'll tell you why I chose these particular pillows, and the system I use with both of them when I'm actually hiking and camping, because as I said, I sleep on my side, so I actually need a higher pillow rather than just one single pillow. So we'll go through that right now. Alright, we'll start with the Cedar Summit. I bought this particular pillow. This is the Eros Premium Large. The reason I wanted to use this particular pillow, it gets good ratings. I see it a lot on a lot of different YouTube channels and hikers using this particular pillow. But it also locks onto this particular airbed, which is what I wanted as well. I wanted a pillow that would stay in place rather than having to find it all night, pull it back under your head and all that sort of business. So anyway, let's put this together and see what it looks like. So as you can see, beautiful, comfortable pillow. It's got a lovely soft texture on the top here. And as you can also see, it locks into the mat, which is great. It doesn't do too bad a job of that. And you can shift it back slightly up or down or side to side if you want. But generally speaking, holds onto the mat, not too bad. Great pillow. Problem I have, I'm a side sleeper, so it's not quite high enough. And to get it even close to being high enough, I have to have it drum tight. Now the problem with that is I then get a hot ear, a squash face, and it gets pretty uncomfortable for me. I've got a head like a bloody crash helmet, so it's a bit big and heavy. So I found that was a bit of a problem for me. If I had it drum tight, it was great for my neck and leaning and so forth, but it was hard on my side of my face and my ear. So I ended up buying a little Trekology pillow as well. The idea was to put that on top of this one or below this one, and then to build a multi-pillow system. So let's get this one set up as well, and I'll show you how that one works. So this is a little Trekology one. Once again, nice comfortable pillow. Not as comfortable as the Cedar Summit. That surface is quite nice material, but not quite as soft. This one has a little bit of cushioning in it, in the actual material itself, which does make it a little bit more comfortable. But this one does have a full strap on it, which means you can just strap it around the airbed as well, which means I can use it on both airbeds. This is the only one that has the Velcros on it. But more importantly, I can then build a 2-pillow system, which I'll take you through now. Okay, with the Trexology pillow now strapped to the bed, it's not going anywhere. It's actually a more secure system than the little Velcro dots, I must admit. It works really, really well. Never had an issue with that. But now I can deflate this guy a little bit more and make him a lot softer. So that now sits on top, and I've got a lovely plush soft pillow, and that works really well. Really, really great. So you've got now a nice soft pillow. It's like a 2-pillow system at home where you have a hard and a soft pillow. That's exactly what I've built here. That works wonderful. Really, really great. It's been a game changer for my sleep, I'll admit it. It's just been wonderful. Only issue once again though, of course, now we've got a problem with this, falling off during the night. So for those of you that have stayed around to the end, now I'll show you a couple of tips and tricks that I've used that'll make a big difference to your sleep, both from this double pillow system, but also sleeping in the summertime on one of these vinyl mats and from a sweat and perspiration point of view. All right, so the trick is, I went to Kmart, bought ourselves a kid's jumper, cut the sleeves out of it. You could do exactly the same thing with a t-shirt, but I find this material's lovely and soft inside of the face. So what I then do, get the Trexology in, so that in itself is a nice fit. You've got a lovely material, but we can then push this guy in as well. So because I've got a hole each end, I can pull the strap through and strap it around the actual mattress itself. But more importantly, I've got now a very, very comfortable system. And that then sits on the end of the bed here, and that's my sleeping system. As I said, that now straps around it, doesn't move, 2 pillows held together, essentially a pillowcase. That is really, really nice, very luxurious. As I said, you could use a t-shirt as well. I prefer this fleecy jumper type material. It's a little bit hard wearing, a bit thicker and warmer and so forth. Wonderful on a cold night, but also really great on a summer's night when you've got a bit of perspiration and so forth. It soaks it all up, keeps the whole thing a lot cooler, and more importantly, of course, holds the pillows together. You now got one single pillow that's not going anywhere all night. That is absolutely brilliant. And I'm very, very happy that I thought of that idea, because it's just resolved all of my issues now around sleeping on the side, on my back, and not having the pillows disappear during the night. I can just relax. I side sleep, I turn over all night long. I'm always turning over, and it just doesn't go anywhere. Really, really great system. Now, the second thing I've developed is the idea of how do I then sleep in the summertime without a quilt and so forth, but not sweating on a vinyl mat. And I'll show you what I do there. Okay, last item is on the system itself is a sleeping bag liner. This is just a cotton one, little old Cedar Summit one, had it for 100 years. Long one, of course, but it's what you do with it that makes a difference. Yes, I can just use this by itself in the summertime as a sleeping bag on top of the mat, so that's quite nice in itself. A little bit difficult though, because you've only got so much room leg-wise and so forth, and it does hold a little bit of heat. But those chilly nights, sometimes it can be enough just to put that on, and that'll get you through the night. But if we now use it with the mat, I can show you another way of doing this. It works just as well, in fact even better, particularly if you have the little sleeping bag, as I said, using it as a quilt. And that is, we put it over the actual mat. I'll show you. So the idea is to put the sleeping mat in the actual cotton liner itself. So what you've now got is a fitted bed sheet, not going anywhere overnight, and now I can just sleep on top of that. Wonderful sleep in the summertime. Really, really nice to be able to sleeping on cotton sheets as opposed to just a vinyl cover. And as I said, in combination with a little sleeping bag used as a quilt, really, really nice sleep. Just wonderful. Made a big difference. I come up with that idea about 2 years ago, and it's worked an absolute treat for me. Takes up no room in your pack. As I said, it's just a tiny little thing. Yes, you can get silk ones if you want. Knock yourself out, don't care. But a long cotton one like that goes over the top. And as I said, it's just really, really nice to lie on, particularly on a hot, humid night, on a cotton sheet as opposed to vinyl or vinyl sleeping bags, not vinyl I should say, synthetic sleeping bags, that type of stuff, synthetic materials in particular. I've now got a nice cotton cover on there. I've got a lovely cotton cover on here as well for the face and the head, and I've now got a very, very comfortable place to sleep on a hot, humid night. Works a treat. So, last item on the agenda, how do I actually pack these actual mats away? Let me show you that idea. So the final piece is how do I actually store, or how do I carry the actual sleeping mats themselves, and that is folded like this. This packs down a lot smaller in the pack than it does as a tube. I've got a rectangular pack, so it can just sit in beautifully underneath the actual sleeping bag at the bottom of the pack. Can go in the middle of the pack, but you don't get the big gaps you do when you're putting tubes into a pack. You put tubes into a pack, you always end up with gaps. But folding it flat like this and putting it in the bottom of your pack or anywhere in the pack, even sideways in the pack and so forth, and packing stuff around it, you tend to pick up a lot more room in your pack then. And I just find that a whole lot easier. I get the actual inflation bag and just wrap that around it to protect it a little bit, and it goes into the pack. And that's been actually a bit of a game changer, I'll be honest. It's actually given me a lot more room in my pack. You wouldn't think it would, but it does. It's amazing. And as I said, it could go underneath the sleeping bag at the bottom or the middle section, or on the sides, and yeah, it gives me a whole lot more room on the pack, that's for sure. So look, that's my sleeping system, guys. I hope you got something out of this video. As I said, I just wanted to share it with everybody. I do get questions about this stuff. Love to hear everyone's thoughts on this. Everyone has their own systems, everyone has their own processes, and everyone has their own equipment as well. So I'd love to hear what your preferred pillow is, mat is, sleeping bags. If you've got any ideas or concepts around sleeping system, we'd love to hear that. Drop a comment down below, because I know a lot of my viewers do read the comments. Everyone loves sharing all this information, so do that for me if you wouldn't mind. And I look forward to seeing you on the fortnight's time. Bye for now.